Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Where do people like this come from? Wedding isn't the biggest issue here. The fact that as soon as his parents demand something, he goes all in and ignores his soon-to-be wife is. I know it might not seem like that right now, but it's probably for the best, OP. Refused to pay my half of our canceled wedding. My ex-fiancé and I came from very different cultural backgrounds. Our families live on entirely different continents. I explicitly told him before we even got engaged that I always wanted a small, low-key wedding. I know that his culture have huge, lavish weddings, and he told me that this is what he wants, so when we got engaged, we had a long conversation, which resulted in the compromise that we would have a big wedding in his home country, but drop some of the other aspects of his culture that I wasn't so comfortable with, or did not mesh well with my own culture, regarding living situation and raising children. For future children, we did not have any children. This was not a huge amount of customs. In fact, we just arranged to drop one and alter two so they streamline better with my own culture. We were both as happy as possible with this outcome. We began making booking, reservations, and paying deposits for our wedding. This was all out of his bank account. This is because we didn't have citizenship in each other's countries, so it was far less complicated for everything to be paid from an account of the same country. The intention was that after we married, it would be much easier to get citizenship, and once citizenship was approved, we would merge our finances, and at this point, it wouldn't matter who had paid for the wedding, since all our money would be together. 3 weeks before we were married, his mother and aunts got wind of one of the customs we had arranged to alter and lost it. Through conversations, they then found out about the other two, and eventually they threatened to disown him for being a bad son. They said I was cutting him off from his family, and that if that was what he wanted, they would make it easier for him. He begged me to change my mind, but I was firm, saying this is what we decided together. I wasn't going to drop our agreement because his family didn't like it, when there are plenty of aspects of my own family are uncomfortable with. Relationships are about compromise and communication, and ultimately the first priority are the two people in the relationship, not their family. He told me if I wouldn't budge, then the wedding was off. I told him I'd made my compromise. I still wanted to marry him under our original conditions when we had spent a long time negotiating and originally felt were fair. He said he'd changed his mind and didn't want to marry me. After a few weeks, he contacted me asking me to pay him back for half the money he was unable to get back from the deposits we paid. Since it was so close to the planned date that we canceled, it was not a small amount of money. However, since he was the one who called off the wedding, and even at this point, I would still marry him if he were to honor our original agreement, I don't think I'm obliged to pay. I told him this, and he's very unhappy, since he now believes it's my fault that he canceled for being unwilling to be flexible. And our second story. Girlfriend received a DUI in a car that only had 3 wheels. My girlfriend and I went out for dinner, then bar trivia and drinking. I only had a few drinks the whole evening, but she had 5 or 6 mixed drinks and was very drunk. When it was last call, I decided to drive her to her house in her car, then Uber back to my car and go home myself since I had work the next day. I put her in the passenger seat of her car and started driving to her house, but on the way I hit an awful pothole and busted a tire. I pulled over in a parking lot and started to change the tire, but left the keys in the ignition so she'd be warm since it was pretty chilly out. I jacked the car up and was proceeding to change the tire when a police car pulled into the parking lot, and I thought he was going to help me out, but instead he asked me if I was drunk. I told him I wasn't and explained I was taking my girlfriend home since she'd been drinking. I took a voluntary field test and breathalyzer and blew under the limit. He then looked into the car and saw my girlfriend half asleep in the passenger seat and asked her if she was drunk, and she said she was just sleepy. He then made her get out of the car and do a field sobriety test, which she failed, and then the breathalyzer, where she blew a .10. Legal limit in state is .08. He then placed her under arrest because the keys were in the ignition and she was the only person in the car and intoxicated. Please note that at this time I had not finished changing the tire, so we were only 3 wheels on the car at that time. He took her down to the city station, and after I fixed the tire, I went down and bailed her out. It seems very silly to me that she was charged since she was buckled up in the passenger seat and there was only 3 wheels on the car at that time. We went to a good DUI attorney and he got it all straightened out. I admitted that I was the driver, that I blew, I had less than the legal limit, that my girlfriend was buckled up and passed out in the seat. There's nothing illegal about driving drunk people home. And our next story. Apparently, I shouldn't do my job. Worked at a retail store as a manager, and this story happened about 6 years ago. I'm on shift as closing manager for the day, and it's roughly about 5:30 p.m., and I'd just gone through the store doing recovery, since we tend to get hit heavy traffic in the store around the afternoon and late evening, during which I noticed 3 young female kids wandering throughout the store, but they're regular, so I don't think much of it. For some background information, these girls rarely ever have an adult with them anytime I've seen them come in, something that just upsets me personally, but they're not bad. I mean, yeah, they tend to leave stuff laying all around the store and let anything they're carrying with them, bike helmets, bags, etc., just bump into merchandise on the shelves and don't bother picking it up if it falls over. But it's no different than 90% of the adults who come in, so I just do my mental griping about it, but do my job and tidy up anything I come across. Also, our store has a verbal no backpacks in the store because we've had a lot of teens get away with swiping stuff. And of course, I've informed one who brings in a tiny backpack that it should be left up behind the register most days. I've come across her while walking around. But at that point, she and her group tend to just check out and leave instead. Back to the story. I just walked to the front to check on my cashier, see if she needed change or if there were any items that needed to be put back that customers decided not to get. She told me that she was good, but asked if I would stay up front so she could run to the back and grab our long broom. We sweep the front of our store every night. I tell her of course, and she hurries to the back. Well, just as she was coming back up to the registers with the broom, a customer I'm checking out informs me that he noticed some girls in the back of the store stuffing their pockets with something. He gives some details that confirm it was the 3 I'd seen earlier. Now, I've never had a problem with theft from them before, but over the couple of years I've worked here, 1, never assume that even a customer you trust won't steal. 2, it's always better to be safe than sorry. I close my register down, and since there were only a couple of other people in the store, my cashier walks out and informs me that she sees the girls coming up one of the aisles. I walk over, cashier following, but standing a good 5 to 10 feet back, just to be a witness in case they did have something, so the cops have more than one person's word to go off, should I need to call them in. Inform the girls that a customer believed that he saw them put what looked like merchandise in their pants pockets and simply ask if they'd empty them for me. 2 of them comply, and if I remember correctly, I think one just had some change and papers in hers. The third one had shorts without pockets but had to pull up her shirt a good 2 to 3 inches to be able to see that. Seeing that they didn't have anything on them, I apologize for the inconvenience and wish them a happy evening. They check out roughly 5 minutes later. Now, here's where the real kicker starts. It's a good 20 minutes later that a middle-aged woman steps through the door and approaches me asking to speak to a manager. I inform her that she's speaking to one and ask how I could help her today. Me equals me, W equals woman, who turns out to be the mother of one of the girls. Also paraphrasing a bit to shorten the story because she snapped at me for a good 10 to 20 minutes over this. W, so what right do you think you have stopping my girls and rummaging through their pockets for? Me, I'm sorry, ma'am, but I was informed by a customer that there was a group of young girls who were shoving something that looked like merchandise in their pockets. W, where are they then? Me, the customer? They left a long while ago, but even then I don't see a reason for you to speak to them. They came to me and I did what I was supposed to do. W, what? Talk to my girls illegally? They're underage minors. You have no right to approach them. Me, but they were unsupervised, ma'am. W, yeah, but we only live 4 or 5 blocks down the street. You should have had them call me if you needed to speak to them. They have a phone. They're good girls who would have called me if there was an issue. Me, I apologize, but I've never been informed by my training nor the police that I can't confront a minor if the topic of possible theft is brought up. And even then, I only spoke to them myself because I didn't see the need to contact the police without 100% confirmation since I was informed by a customer. W, yeah, that would have been idiotic. Me, yes, I didn't think I needed to escalate the situation by contacting them and thus having to hold the girl. W, no, I mean that it was effing stupid that you would even consider calling the police on minors, let alone my girls. They're good girls who have never done anything bad in their entire lives. Me, stunned silence for a good 10 seconds. No, I still could have called them, but once again, I didn't want to escalate the situation. W. What could they have even hid in their pockets anyway? 2 of them aren't even wearing anything that have pockets on them. Clear as day. Like you'd have to be effing blind not to use your eyes to see that. 1. As I stated above, 2 of the girls had turned their pockets inside out for me, so she outright lied to my face. 2. As also stated above, the one had to lift her shirt up a decent amount to even tell that they didn't have pockets. But either way, I was completely done with this lady and let her continue to rant about how I was immoral because I was doing my job and I better not dare talk to her daughters or let this store apparently bully them into leaving their backpacks at the register. Though I did inform her that we did that with everyone we noticed walking in with backpacks, to which she snapped and said we should leave her girls be because they're angels, which I already knew they weren't because there are plenty of angel children who come in and don't mess up merchandise or leave it scattered around the store. But I kept my mouth shut and promised that if anything like this ever happened again, I'd call the police and have the girls call her to come down so we can deal with it together. And our last story. HOA trying to stick us for $100K in damages. A common pipe burst in our building due to lack of insulation. 0 insulation in the wall. They literally forgot it when they reconstructed in 2018, about 5 weeks ago. HOA told us owners to file a claim with our own personal insurances because they weren't going to file one with theirs. HOA's deductible is $25K. Well over $100,000 plus in damages. Our personal insurance says HOA should be responsible for all costs as it's well above their deductible and ultimately their fault, but HOA is refusing to file a claim with their insurer, refusing to pay for repairs/replacement costs, and they're discussing trying to bill us back for mitigation costs. This seems effed up. We hired an attorney to handle the situation, but not sure if we stand a chance. With the help of our attorney, we filed with my insurance and let them know the circumstances. My insurance then sued the HOA for damages, and the HOA insurance had to pay in the end. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.